And there we go.
There we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the premiere episode of Best Under Five. I am your host, Jarrod, the art sale artist. I am joined by my buddy in B movies. It is Chris. We call him Black Belt Chris, right? That's your official nickname. Well, welcome
Yeah,
to the
Black
premiere
Belt Chris.
episode,
I'll
Black
Black
Belt
Belt Chris.
Chris.
I like that. I like that.
Oh, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So we're starting a new show as I try to get social media to work for us here. There, I got it. We're starting a new show. This is off to a great start since I can't get things to work. But yeah, this is Best Under Five. The concept of this show basically comes out of Chris and I on X, formerly known as Twitter. Just we just have this kinship for B movies. Like he's always like posting, "Hey, I just watched this one on Tubi." You're almost always on Tubi, right?
Yes, Tubi. That's a treasure trove of B grade and worse.
Yes, and he'll post something. I'll be like, "Oh, I got to see that." So I'll put it in my little queue, and eventually I'll get around to watching it. And vice versa. He'll be like, "Oh man," he'll see something I posted, and he'll be like, "Man, I got to see that." And we go round and round with it. And then I thought, well, why don't we just make a little show about it? And that is what we're doing. I want to welcome Matt Passo to the chat. He made it back in time.
Hey,
he was at a Comic-Con today, and he made it back in time.
I saw that on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It'll always be Twitter.
I am good because I was in the military and I'm used to like units changing names and stuff like that. I try to just make the shift. So I have
you think I'd be used to it too. The company I used to work for, we change division names about every 2 years, and well, okay, this is the new nomenclature, or this is the new acronym.
I try to stay on my toes. I also want to welcome Kathy to the chat.
Hey, there's Kathy.
So we've already got a couple people in on this new show. So I was just about to explain what it was. Yeah, we watched these B movies, and I kind of went to Chris and I was like, what if we did a show about movies that we liked that were rated under a 5.0 on IMDb, like something I think is underrated. We'll see how Chris thinks, because I brought the movie today, and it's a fun one. Before we get into the movie, it is fun, and I'm glad he said that, because at least I know he's not going to hate it the entire time. but before we get the movie going on this premiere episode, I just kind of want to give the listening audience kind of an idea of where we're coming from when we look at movies. And I'll go first so Chris can kind of organize his thoughts, because this is our first episode. It's a little bit on the fly. Where the best way to describe where I come from on movies, especially B movies, I'm very forgiving of them. I enjoy them more than most. And this is how I describe it. Raised isn't the right word, because Mystery Science Theater started in like 1990. And I discovered it in college in like 1995, 1996. But since then, since about 95, 96, I've been a big Mystery Science Theater fan. And so that kind of moved me into there's a whole other subgenre of movies that nobody really talks about thing. And the best way that I can describe how I look at movies now, because of that filter, is sometimes you watch a Mystery Science Theater movie and it's all about the riffs, and you're listening to the guys riff, and they're great, and you enjoy it. You're just like, this movie's so bad, and they're just riffing on it, and it's hilarious. And sometimes you watch a Mystery Science Theater movie where the movie is actually holding your attention with what it's doing, and it's still funny because the guys are riffing, but the movie itself is doing a good job of holding your attention. And that's my angle when the B movie holds my attention. That's when I start to think this is better than people say it is. And that is my point of view. And I will welcome Courtney to the chat. And Chris, you can tell people how you approach this.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you about the whole, it's, if it holds my attention, it's better than what, the reviews say online. If I'm constantly laughing my butt off, or if I'm sitting here posting comments about it on Twitter as I watch it, then that's a totally different story. Now, that being said, as I'm watching, I'm usually I'm typing on my laptop and taking notes to, look up things as I go. But I'm still totally engrossed in the movie. But I also go in thinking, okay, is this going to be a total steaming pile of crap, or is it actually going to be good? I go in expecting the worst. So if it's good, I'm pleasantly surprised. There are some that I have watched that are just absolutely awful. What was it? Shark Exorcist is one of them.
That's new to me.
The other one, oh, if you want to torture yourself, go for it. It's horrible. I liken it to two people from the same studio were walking down the hall with two different movie scripts. They collided, and rather than sorting out the two scripts, they said, "Screw it, let's put it all together, and this is what we get."
I think I watched a Leprechaun movie recently that was like that.
Or the other one was Killer Sofa. I mean, the title wasn't even correct. It was a recliner. Like, come on, guys. If it's gonna be called Killer Sofa, it's got to be a sofa. That right there sunk it for me. That and the acting was horrible. So,
oh well, okay. We've had some comments about this in the chat, and I want to pick one here from Kathy. She said, "I think mood and sometimes company plays a part as well," and I think that's absolutely valid. I think watching something that's quote unquote a bad movie with the right people and the right frame of mind can elevate it a bit. That's fair.
Oh, yes. Thankfully, I have turned my son to the, why I like watching B movies. Some of them he watches and he's right there with me. He's like, "Oh, this is total crap." And others, he's like, "Oh, this was great. This is better than I thought it was going to be because it's just crazy. It's out there." My wife, she just looks at us both and goes, "How can you watch this stuff?"
I like what you just said too. It's crazy. It's out there. I greatly reward bonkers. The more bonkers a movie gets, the more I am in it. I'm like, oh, I love it when they like just go all in. The filmmakers are like, we're just going all in this. So.
Well, and a lot of times what really sells it is you can tell they went in knowing what they were making and they were just loving it.
Absolutely.
And then there are other times where it is very obvious that it's like, okay, either A, no one gives a crap about this, or B, it's they thought they were making something great and it's not.
And I think I saw a Leprechaun movie like that too. I want to say hey to our buddy Billy, who goes by Magazines and Monsters in the chat. Thanks for stopping by, bud. All right. I think we've primed the audience well. I'm excited to get to this first one. These won't be long episodes unless we get carried away. Who knows? But we're just going to kind of pull up the film, which I will do at this time. Let me add the image for our viewing audience because we do record these live in front of a studio audience. There we go. There we go. So today we're going to be talking about Fangs, which is a 2002 movie that is rated PG-13. Like any good movie, Chris, like any good, especially B movie, it clocks in at about 94 minutes. All right. Don't give me a B movie that's freaking 2 hours long. All right. don't.
If it's more than an hour and a half, if you're pushing an hour and 45, then it's like I question whether could be a B movie.
I concur, sir. All right. So it's directed by Kelly Sandifer, written by Jim. It's kind of hard to pronounce. I'm going to say Jogan. And it stars, I love how they say it. And if you're looking at the box art as we're doing this live, first name you see Corbin Burnson. They put the biggest name on there. He's not in it the most. He's not the main character. But he's great. But he's great in it. We'll get to that.
Oh, yes, he is.
It stars Corbin Burnson, Tracy Nelson, and a name I love to say, which is Whip Hubley. Whip Hubley. Say it at home. Say it at home, ladies and gentlemen. Whip.
Just rolls off the tongue.
It does. So that's what we're talking about. I'm going to shut up for a minute and just let Chris give his first impressions, and then I'll come back with some positive thoughts on it, unless he takes them all. So, just your first impressions, broad brush, maybe, sort of a 60-second. What did you think?
I don't want to tip my hand, but I thought it was better than what I did think it was better than what they posted on IMDb.
I dropped the ball, Chris. I never told people what it got on IMDb. First episode, it has a 3.4 on IMDb out of 10. It's a 3.4 out of 10. All right, back to you, Chris. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you mentioned that, though. I forgot the point of our damn show.
It's a good thing I said it. And so like I said, I think it deserves higher than that. And it screams made for TV movie. You've got the PG-13 rating, but it screams made for TV movie. It's slightly better than a made for TV movie, though.
Yes, a high
I,
end
I,
made for TV movie.
yeah, going into it, like within the first 3 or 4 minutes, with those two girls walking across in that the science building or whatever you want to call it at the college campus, I'm thinking, oh God, what did Jarrod pick here? Because I'm thinking, there is no way, absolutely no way, these two are working in the biology department at this college.
And you were worried.
None.
You're like, am I going to have to follow these characters through the whole movie?
I honestly was. I thought they were going to be part of the main focus. And if that was it, I'm thinking, oh God, this is going down in flames. This definitely deserves what it got, probably a little less.
I love it. I love it. Oh, good point. I had those same first reactions, by the way. I thought,
oh, good.
And I don't know if you're more the research guy between the two of us, so feel free to pepper this discussion with all your deep dive research. I actually found myself wondering, like, did this get a theatrical release? Was this straight to DVD? Was it a made for TV that they ported to DVD?
Well, and that's what I was wondering when I got about 10, 15 minutes into it. So I looked. It was not made for TV. The only release date I could find was in Greece. Like, okay, it's an odd country to pick a release for. I did the Wikipedia page did not list a U.S. release date, so I'm thinking it was released in Greece and then straight to video.
Well, makes sense to me. Yeah, it does have. If it's not made for TV, it does have that. It went right to, this was 2002, so I would say right to DVD.
Yeah,
maybe the very tail end of VHSs. Just for some reason, I have this random bit of trivia in my mind that says that movie, The History of Violence, was the last major film release on VHS, by the way.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Just a little nugget that rattles around in my brain. But anyway, back to Fangs. All right, so our initial broad brush was the same. I was like, okay, this looks like made for TV. These girls, I don't want to be super negative, but they're dumb.
They are.
But I think in short order, I started to get the feeling they're playing this up. Like, these are supposed to be very vapid. I'll use a better word, vapid characters. And I started to think, that's when I started to think, oh, this movie might be better than I think, because I think they're in on the joke. I think they're in on it.
I was actually expecting more of them as the movie went on, but they just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, they did. They did disappear, which was probably for the best. That's
true. That's true.
For those of you who didn't brave it and watch this movie beforehand, they're very sort of Valley Girl, and like everything they say is like this.
That's it. Valley Girl. That's what I was looking for.
You're just like, oh my gosh. Well, then the movie proper gets going, and we sort of meet our main character, who's the town veterinarian, and he's kind of handsome, and I think his wife, I think he's a widower, or I don't remember if she left him or if she passed away.
I'm trying to remember if they actually explained that.
I don't. They may not have, but he's single.
My
single dad.
He's single, and my guess is the way his daughter reacts, I'm guessing he's probably a widower.
I think so too. So he's the veterinarian, and he's kind of helping the cop lady who's the special investigator, and she's the one played by Tracy Nelson. Which, shout out to Ricky Nelson fans. That's his daughter. I'm a fan of Ricky.
Oh, really?
Nelson. Yeah,
I did not know that.
That's his daughter. And I've seen her pop up in several things. I bet you're the guy to ask where I've seen her before.
Yep. I need to fix my notes so I could have trivia as opposed to general comments. But if I remember right, she was oh God. Now you're taxing me here. But she showed up in she's got a fairly decent TV show career.
Okay.
That's what I do remember. I can't pick out.
Kathy in the chat is saying something about Square Pegs. Is that a TV show, Square Pegs? That's from Kathy in the chat.
I believe so, yes.
So I'll buy that. I missed a comment earlier, which is pretty funny, from Matt Posse in the chat. Says, you gotta love direct-to-video projects, full moon movies. I love full moon. Big
Full
time.
moon movies are great.
Oh, anyways, so back to what we're doing. You get into the meat of the story, which is a bit of a, interestingly enough, it's a bit of, it becomes, I'll get my words out. It goes from creature feature with these bats that have been released from the local university, creature feature horror flick, to actual kind of a murder mystery. And then they sprinkle it in with what I felt was some pretty decent humor, and all the way through to a satisfying conclusion for me. That's sort of my broad brush from the rest of the film. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was fairly well written. I mean, some of the jokes were a little flat or some groaners, but others were good. And some of the scenes were fairly well. I did like a lot of Whip's interaction with the detective, in his vet's office and at the university. It almost reminded me of kind of a cross between, I don't know if I'd say Monk, a little bit of Monk and a lot of Psych. Is kind of the feel I was getting, which is because he's trying to be funny, and
yes,
she's
he's trying
not
to be funny and charming, and he's got dad humor because he's totally a dad.
Yes.
And you're right.
Yeah,
some jokes landed better than others.
Yeah, and then there were some scenes that just had me groaning, especially when they went to the cave to find if the bats were in there, and they're putting on sports gear of all things,
I thought that was a little silly
here goes Whip walking into the cave in hip waders, and I think it was a football helmet. Like, what? No, this is not safety gear. Come on, man.
I gave him the hip waders because he did mention that they like to bite around the ankles.
Yes. Now, considering it's a B movie and the low score, I mean, there's tons of jokes you can make about the hip waders.
Just as a reminder, everybody, it's a 3.4 out of 10 is what they have on IMDb. And to that, I want to get one of my positives for this movie was it's 2002. It's the early and somewhat questionable era of CGI. And I thought the CGI in this movie was well done. There was a couple places, especially we got like real close to the bats CGI. But like when we're doing swarms of bats and bats attacking, it looked good. I had to laugh because I'm thinking to myself, the actors, when they're fighting, they're clearly fighting nothing because they're going to put CGI in later, but they really committed to it. And I thought it balanced out really well. So I'm going to give them a plus on good use of CGI, doing it well, not over relying on it. But in a movie like Fangs, you're going to have you have to have a bunch of bats. And I think they did a wonderful job. You have to have it.
And you're right. It was well done. You're right. Some of the close up ones, like when the bat was on the tray in his office and started to come back to life, that looked a little sketchy. But once you got the far out shots where it was just swarms and swarms of bats, it was decent for what it was. It was good.
Absolutely.
I've seen worse. I've seen worse in big budget movies.
I was going to say the same thing. I've seen big budget movies that came out after 2002 that didn't look this good with the CGI. So I will stand on that. Now, this movie commits a movie sin for me, Chris. So it's got to go in the negative column. I don't like it when they kill the dogs, Chris.
I don't like it when they kill the dog. That one kind of surprised me.
Yeah, but I like that the dog went out like a boss. Like he was fighting. He was fighting those bats. And I like that. But man, Louis, was that his name? The cop, the rent-a-cop?
Yes, Louis.
Complete turn.
Who was also a doc, who was a dock worker and a racer.
Yes, that's what I said. I said I know this guy from Eraser.
I looked at him and I'm like, wait a minute, that's one of the dock workers from Eraser.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You and I had that same. See, this is why we do the show together. We had that same thought. So, I mean, in the end, my big pluses in this movie were really very impressive for again, impressive for any movie, CGI 2002. I thought the humor was good. Some of the stuff falls flat, but I thought it was just enough to pep it up. I like the fact that it kind of turned a corner to murder mystery, and I watch a lot of murder mystery. So do you, Chris. So you may be with me on this, but by the time we got about 75% of the way through the movie, and I realized, because they take a little time to show you that they very subtly show you that they're using some sort of a small device. Someone's using a device to attract them.
Someone's using something to attract them.
And so that's when my brain started churning about halfway, 75% of the movie. And then I went, that guy in the first act was so mangled. I don't think the doctor's dead. I think he's behind this. And spoiler alert, I was right.
Yep.
Did you feel the same way, Chris? Was it an easy solve for you as well? But we both watched a lot of mysteries.
Yes and no. At first, I'm thinking, okay, Corbin's doing this, but or I should say, Hunt. I can't remember what his name.
Whatever the heck his name was.
I thought he was doing it, but then I'm like, well, wait, why would he be doing this? Because that'd be driving away potential customers. And then I thought it was the guy he was getting ready to evict off of his property because he was going to put a golf course there. And then, like you, I started to think, as we get closer to the end of the movie before the big reveal, I'm like, wait a minute, no, the professor had to have faked his death.
Indeed.
When his daughter started going through the street names and how he Burnson would name street names after the people he evicted in his developments, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe it's the professor.
There you go. Indeed. You know what? We haven't done our due diligence and talked about Whip as sort of the charismatic dad joke flinging lead, and we talked about Tracy Nelson as she was very charming and likable. We got to check in on our boy Corbin. All right, and you know what? I've led a lot of discussions. I'm going to let you go. You talk about it.
I was hoping for more of Corbin Burnson. I grew up watching him in L.A. Law and absolutely loved him. He in LA Law, he was a bit of a slime ball, but at heart, he was a good guy. And then you catch him in his, when he makes that jump to movies in, what was it, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, I think. Major League. He dipped his toe into some comedy. Again, he plays the same type of character. He's kind of a slime ball. But man, I have seen some horror movies with him in it, and he does an absolutely fantastic job as a villain in horror movies. He just has, I think it's the look that he has and just his facial expressions and the way he delivers the lines. I mean, I think he could have had a very lucrative career in some bigger budget horror movies as some sort of villain. Because he can do creepy. He can do creepy.
True. Creepy with that. Just you almost like to watch him be a turd. It's
like I mean, thinking about it, I could actually see him switch positions with Larry Drake in Darkman.
Yes.
I could that's how and I think Larry Drake is fantastic as a bad guy, and in Darkman, I think Corbin Burnson could have slipped right into that,
absolutely,
and done very well. So he does the evil villain part well, and I was hoping for more of him in this movie, considering he got top billing.
He did. They knew the biggest name that they had. They put it up
right. Yeah.
I absolutely love my favorite moment for him is like when they're having the whatever the heck it was, apple harvest ball or whatever, and he's kind of revealed who the apple blossom queen is, and he's like, oh, and it's my daughter. What a big surprise. Like there was no doubt. Surprise. Everybody in the room was like, clap. We all do.
Yes.
And she was the apple, no pun intended, did not fall far from the tree, because she was a kind of a pain in the butt too, but she cracked me up though. She was funny. She tried to get she's like, I have a photo shoot on Monday. She's trying to get some cosmetic surgery done on Sunday.
Yeah. She's trying to get some scars or something from the bats,
from the bats, yeah. See, guys, this movie has a lot of charm to it. And going back to what I said at the beginning, this is an easily riffable movie for, the guys now that do riff tracks could really have fun with this. But it's one of those movies I think would hold your attention in and of itself. So this is why I decided I would start best under 5. with Fangs from 2002, because yeah, I mean, is it Amadeus? Is it even Jaws? No. No, but it has its own charm.
Speaking of Jaws, once I got through the whole movie, I it's kind of summing up my thoughts on it. I mean, it's a cross between arachnophobia. It's got a little bit of Jaws to it, and the end sequence absolutely screams Carrie, but just with bats instead of telekinesis.
Yes, good point. So I've pretty much put out all my positives. Again, good CGI, a fun cast, fun to watch. I like the way that even when the jokes flop, it's almost intentional, because he's totally a dad, and their dad jokes. I got to give a shout out to the girl's boyfriend. I think his name was Logan or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
He's the every movie in this area had to have a hacker, right? He's the hacker.
Yes.
And he's just a complete numbnuts, but he's kind of lovable.
It's a bit of a stoner.
Yeah, that's
very much a stoner.
So those are my highlights. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we sort of talk about where we would rank this film?
No, I think we pretty much covered it between the both of us.
All right. Give me 1 second. I'm jotting down, being that this is our premiere episode, I'm jotting down everybody who joined us in the chat, because I'm going to give a little something away at the end of this. But all right, well, let's talk about then ultimately, and I want to welcome Auburn Elvis to the chat. Thanks for stopping by, Auburn Elvis. Ultimately, as of this recording, which is in May of 2024, this movie has a 3.4 out of 10 on IMDb, making it 4.9 or lower, which is what we're going to do on Best Under 5. Chris, what would you rate it? Do you think it's accurate? Do you think it's too low or too high?
I think it's too low, but now I would elevate it maybe to like a 3.8. Give it a few more, a couple more tenths. I would definitely not rate it above Bats, the other bat themed horror movie with Lou Diamond Phillips. It is the superior bat movie here. So I can't put it on par with that, but I would give it a little bump up.
You give it a small bump to a 3.8. Okay. Well, I again greatly reward bonkers, and I just am nicer in general. I am
rude.
I would put this at I would put it slightly over a 5. I'd probably put it at like a 5.5. But you have to remember that Chris and I come at this from different angles. Like a 5 is average. A 5 is a middle road. It's fine. It's okay movie. And I think this succeeds. It's fine. It's okay, because I actually got invested in the story. I laughed a few times. I applauded the CGI, which in 2002 for a kind of a direct video, that's again a big compliment. So I will push it all the way to like a 5.5-ish area. I definitely think
you're really giving it a bump.
Oh yeah, and I think this is going to become a trend on this show, because I just greatly reward these. Like I find a lot of charm in this kind of thing, and that's fine. If we're two different guys with two different perspectives, but you are obviously had some amount of enjoyment with it, and I think that's what matters.
Oh yeah. That's the main thing, is you got to enjoy it. I mean, there are some that I have watched that I have not enjoyed, and I'm sorry for watching. This includes blockbuster movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are others that I watch, and I think it's like, oh yeah, this thing's rated a 3.0. It deserves it, but I loved it.
So it's a hard scale to manage. But at the end of the day, one of my biggest indicators, and I might should have said this up front, but my biggest indicator, for those of you who are doing the audio only version, you can't see, but I'm holding up my phone. If I start drifting off and checking social media and stuff during your film, that is a bad sign. And I didn't do that in this movie, but that kind of goes back to another thing Chris and I talked about earlier. And listen up, you B movie makers out there, 90 minutes or less. Okay, don't try and get all artsy on us and go 1 hour 45.
Yes. But on the flip side of that, don't do 60 minutes, because that's a TV show.
Yeah, I think 75 to 90 is your window.
That 80, 80-minute mark is probably the chef's kiss. I have a friend of mine on Facebook that, I mean, she's big into B movies too, and I think she has literally plumbed the depths of the internet and Tubi, because she has come up with some that I have never heard of, and I'm like, oh boy, do I dare go watch this? I mean, she's thrown out some on her Facebook profile that are like come in like 65 minutes. Like, oof.
Well, I'll give it a shot. A lot of your old classic Universal monster movies clock in at that, and I'm okay with that as long as it holds together, right?
Yes, as long as it holds together. I would not knock The Mummy, Frankenstein, The Wolfman for clocking in at like 70 minutes. I mean, those are classics.
Absolutely. And one day so shall Fangs. Okay, maybe not. All right, let's wrap this up with any final thoughts and where to find us on social media. So let me just check in with you, Chris. Did you have anything weighing on your mind that you wanted to get off your chest about Fangs or anything else about our premiere episode?
Nope, I did not.
All right, then let's tell folks where they can chat with us on social media, and most importantly, tell folks, and I'll take care of this bit, where you can make suggestions for movies you want us to cover. Remember, they have to be at a 4.9 or lower on IMDb. I'll tell you how to do that shortly, but let's find out where you can chat with Chris online if you want to chat with him individually.
Well, you can find me on Twitter/X at BlackBeltX21. I am on Facebook, but the Twitter is where my movies and pop culture account resides.
So good. If you haven't already started following Chris, again, at BlackBeltX21, do that. He's a great follow. He's a lot of fun. He's much like me. It's a lot of B movie talk and not a lot of controversial stuff. He's a fun guy to follow, so I highly recommend him.
And as a bonus, if you follow me when my wife goes out of town, you get color commentary from my son when we do movie nights.
Yeah, absolutely true, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely true. And everybody on this network knows where to find me, but I'll remind you, I am at Yard Sale Artist on X and Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out my art at www.theyardsaleartist.com. Now, more importantly, I want to give a shout out to a few folks. First of all, of course, our Crusaders Club members. This is one of our shorter shows, so we're not going to run down all the names. You guys know who you are. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Now, if you want to make a suggestion, just use our LONGBOX social media accounts. We are at LONGBOX Crusade on X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Give us your suggestions, because the plan is going forward, we're going to be picking from your suggestions. The next time it'll be Chris's turn to pick. So give him some good stuff to choose from. And if you don't, then Chris is going to pick something on his own, and it's going to be fun either way. So it's going to be great. But toss out some ideas, because we want this show to be about as much about you guys as it is us. Again, I brought Fangs kind of personally just as this premiere episode. I'm really excited to get into what you guys and the listening and viewing audience bring to us. So 4.9 or lower on IMDb.
I'm curious to see what people throw at us.
Absolutely.
They're either going to pick gems that they really like, or we're going to get the other end of the scale and say, all right, what can we torture Jarrod and Chris with?
Let's see if these guys can find something good in this, guys. So you can do that at LONGBOX Crusade, X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or you can bring them to me directly, of course, at Yard Sale Artist, or you can bring them directly to Chris at BlackBeltX21 on Twitter X. So please do that, and we'll put some tweets out about it too, so it'll be easy for you to make suggestions under that. But we would so love to hear from you guys. We have one in the chat already. Matt Paso suggested The Fear from 1995.
Oh, of course, Auburn Elvis suggests Alan Quartermain in the Temple of Skulls.
No. We covered that on Action Film Face Off. You're not tricking me twice, Auburn Elvis. Oh, anyways. I wanted to do a giveaway on this episode, on our premiere episode here on the live stream. So thank you guys for joining us for the live stream. I want to make sure my list is good. I have Matt and Kathy and Courtney and Auburn Elvis. I think those are our first 4 to join us on this first episode. Thank you guys so much. Courtney, I think you're still out there, and I think you're still listening. So pick a number between 1 and 4, please, Courtney. I have my pencil laying in a random spot on this list. And let me tell you, while she's doing that, what you're going to win. I have, for whomever wins this, just get excited. I have a DVD copy of Fangs from 2002. This is how I discovered it. I went to my local Goodwill. I found this at the Goodwill. I always pick up weird movies I've never heard of before, and I went, this Fangs.
That's what I was just wondering. I'm thinking to myself, he found that at a Goodwill.
Yeah, 100% correct. I got this at Goodwill, and I thought I've already ripped it to my Plex server, so I'm more than happy to pass this along to someone who showed up for our first live stream. Courtney picked 3. And Courtney picked very smartly, because Courtney's about to own Fangs. It landed on Courtney. So, Courtney, you had the inside track, and you are the winner. You're going to get the Fangs, which is funny because she commented while we were talking that she needs to see Fangs now. Hopefully, you never got rid of your DVD player, Courtney, because it's coming to your house. That is on. Courtney says, yay in the chat.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for me and Chris. We were going to be back. That may be another big question people have. For now, Chris and I are looking at doing this quarterly. So we are looking to be back on the first Sunday of, hang on, let me do some math. This is May, August. We talked about this. We think we're both going to be around on the first Sunday in August. And we're going to try to make that happen for you and just kind of go quarterly from there. And we also talked about, like, hey, if we end up both being basically home and board on a first Sunday of the month, and we're both available, we may toss in some bonus episodes. But for now, because of his schedule, my schedule, the first Sunday that we can link up is the first one in August. So we're going to do our best to be here for that. Stay tuned. We'll talk about it on social media. If something happens and we've got to shuffle that around, we'll let you know. But that is it for the premiere episode. We talked Fangs 2002. It had a 3.4 on IMDb. We both said it deserved more. And that's what this show is all about. Hopefully, some of y'all are going to torture us. I just know it. But
I got a cat here. It's trying to get in on the business.
So before we get
popped up in my lap, like, what the heck?
Chris's cat's going to weigh in with the score. But thank you guys.
She probably wants a movie with a cat in it.
Which ironically, I have a suggestion, but I'll tell you about when we're off air. We will catch you guys next time. You guys keep watching bad movies. We'll watch them with you. All right. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
See ya.
Act froze, Chris. He's trying to do it with a cat in his lap.